show, and I'm very pleased to be presenting some brilliant people today who are coming from the festival world and the distribution world. The panel theme today is to investigate and share some experience that film festivals around the world are introducing new initiatives for the future of cinema. So it's a very wide theme. I hope we will have time to cover all these exciting new experiments that festivals are bringing to the world of distribution and film today. So I will briefly introduce the four panelists today, and they will then introduce their own initiatives. The first man on my left is Yusuf Kullengård. He's from the Malmo Arab Film Festival in Sweden. Colleague next door, just over, Johanna Koljunen, who is from the Gothenburg Film Festival with the initiative of Nostradamus, and also who will explain a new initiative that the Gothenburg Film Festival is introducing on the VOD market. Jared Neese, who's coming from South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, who is a producer and the head of film programming. And last but not least, Jakub Dusinski from Gutek Film, who is also the co-president of Europa Distribution and who's been the artistic director of Era New Horizon Film Festival in Poland. So thank you very much again for coming. We're really excited to share this next conference in Cannes, which is happening for the second year. And I will invite you, if you want to start, to briefly introduce yourself and the initiative in Malmo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm a musician by myself, so I always put the microphone like right in my mouth. Perhaps I should do it the film worker way, which is more like this. My name is Joseph Kullengård. I'm from Sweden, from the festival, Malm Arab Film Festival. We usually say that we're not an Arab film festival, we're a Swedish film festival focusing on Arab cinema. And I've got so much to talk about, so I don't know basically where to start, but I think I will start from the beginning. So the festival was created as some sort of a cultural platform for the Arab cinema in Sweden and to make a melting spot for diversity and tolerance. And quite shortly it became like some sort of boom effect. Just 2 years after the first festival, we became the biggest film festival focusing on Arab films in Europe. And I think by sure we can say after our edition in October we can be the biggest Arab film festival outside the Arab world. But we'll see about that. But that's my aim at least. So basically what we've done is that the reason why the festival has grown so much is that we in some way really succeeded in mixing audience groups and inviting new audience groups to what we generally call art house cinema, inviting them to these new areas. And we discovered that there's a huge demand for screening those kinds of films, both for the Arab communities in Sweden, but as well as for the general cinema goers. Basically, we're a traditional film festival, but we have introduced just recently. We started our new distribution company for focusing on Arab cinema in Sweden. So we had the theatrical premiere of Mohammed Khan's film Factory Girl this April on I think 18 or 19 cinemas in Sweden, which is quite good even for
How many? Sorry.
18.
18.
I think perhaps 19, but I say 18, so I will.
Okay.
It's better to be a bit lower. And art house films in April is bad anywhere in the world. but what I can say, the film went as bad as everyone else did, which is a good sign. It works. It definitely works. And we always try to find new ways to work with reaching out to audience. For instance, just recently we closed a film tour. And we made 13 film festivals in 12 different cities in Sweden during 9 months, which was a crazy project, and we arranged them by ourselves. Flew in international guests to Luleå and Umeå, which is like we had a snowstorm in Luleå, the worst one in 50 years, and even though we got like a full auditorium at the opening of the festival, which is fantastic, And so we work in very many areas, and our next project is to open up an initiative to create co-productions between Scandinavia and Arab cinema. So we want to attract producers and funders from both Scandinavia and Arab world to come to our new industry platform to seed opportunities. So we always work with diversity, tolerance in screening, distribution, and now hopefully even production.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Johanna? Oops.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. So 2.5 hours north by train from Malmö is Göteborg, which is Sweden's second largest city. And the Autobory Film Festival, I should just mention briefly of the festival in itself. It's a venerable institution. We're in our 39th year this year. We screen 500 films from around 90 countries, about 1,000 screenings. And it's a huge audience festival. We reach about 180,000 tickets over the year. It's also the host of the Nordic Film Market, which is a really important industry meeting place. And it happens also just before Berlin, so it also attracts a lot of international people who come to do business before going to Berlin. And we're doing many things, but today I'm going to mention 2 different projects that we do. One is directed towards the audience, and one is directed towards the industry. So the audience project first, as you know, the changes. The viewing behaviors are changing very much, and in an attempt to be present also in the other places where the audience, even though this is a very a theater loyal audience, to reach it at other times of the year as well, we've launched a subscription VOD service for festival type cinema. The platform is called Draken Film, and it currently has about 200 very carefully curated films from about 80 countries. And the reason for this is that there's been this idea also that the market will make these films available. And what we have learned about the VOD market so far, of course, that is not the case, certainly not in the Nordic countries. So this is also a space where film festivals need to act, because this curatorial capacity that is becoming more and more important needs to reach out also into these other spaces. And for the film festival, which operates as a brand, as a recommendation, these people who would perhaps never see a movie from any of these countries normally will go see them at the festival. And the same trust in the curatorial capacity of the festival, of course, can extend to this VOD platform. We'll see if it works. We started in September. So far, so good. But of course, it's a little bit early to say. And new films are also added all the time. So as the catalog grows, it will be even more appealing, we think, to our core audience. The industry initiative that we're doing is actually also related to these changes in the marketplace and the production and the distribution. And this is something that I'm working with specifically at the festival. It's called the Nostradamus Project, and it actually started with an internal challenge that we had at the festival, which is that booking, for instance, seminar programming for industry audiences was becoming increasingly complicated, because everything is changing at the same time, and we also didn't know what's happening. So we felt that we should do some kind of effort, organized effort, to actually sort of read all the reports that come out and go to all the seminars and try to digest this in a useful manner. Then we realized that this is such an enormous work effort that if we do that, we should also make the results available. And that's what the Nostradamus Project is. So we're foreseeing the future, but not hundreds of years into the future based on our fantasies like Nostradamus did. It's 3 to 5 years into the future. We're essentially describing what's going to happen next in the film and TV industries as far as anybody knows today. And we're making all of this available in very easy to read reports and easily understood video seminars online. On nostradamusproject.org. And I can talk later about how we go about foreseeing the future, but that's basically what it is.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jared Neese. I'm the producer and senior programmer at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. We are 22 years old as a film festival. The music festival is 30 years old. We started as a music festival in 1987. From there, a few years later, we started the Multimedia Festival, which is now 2 separate festivals, film and interactive. The music festival is one of the largest music festivals in the world. Around 2,000 bands play every year in 130 clubs over 5 days. And from noon to 2 a.m. And the tech conference is one of the, if not the largest tech conference in the United States, possibly the world. And those are all happening at the same time as our film festival. The film festival lasts 9 days. The first half is concurrent with interactive. We do a lot of programming with interactive. We have a very large film conference. We have also, during the second half, we program with the music festival. And you know, South by Southwest has tried many ways to you know, in 2006 or 7, we were one of the first festivals to do a day and date with one of the films that we premiered with the IFC channel. That was with one of Joe Swanberg's films. We don't ever we don't consider ourselves a distributor. We don't want to be a distributor. We don't want to take any of those roles on. We're an event, and we try to. Our goal is to help filmmakers find their audiences, and we do that by we program 130 feature films. Those are narratives, documentaries, genre films, and then we present them to our audiences, and we try to make the events more than just an intro and a film and a Q&A. We try to do special events and things that are just more exciting. I mean, we have a very young audience. We try to, this year out of the 130 feature films, 75 of them were from first-time filmmakers. 100 of them were world premieres. We do things, special events. This year we did the 30th anniversary of the Breakfast Club screening with the cast, and we had a kids choir sing "Don't You Forget About Me" before the screening, and served donuts in the lobby. So we're very like the experience of the screening itself. We hold very dear, and we want to find ways to incentivize people to attend screenings and have fun and to make them want to go see more films. We have a very large conference that talks about the future of filmmaking, the future of distribution. There's a lot of we embrace transmedia and interactive documentaries in a digital domain program where we have the makers showcase their work and then talk about it afterwards. We do things like have a poster gallery for all the films that are playing the festival. We set it up like an art gallery where people can go and take a look at every poster from every film in the festival. Just finding more ways to connect these films to their audiences, and some ways, we take chances a lot of times, and some things do work, some things don't work. We're starting an online channel called South by Southwest On, which is a channel on Roku and possibly iTunes. We're doing original web series based on the 5 tenets of the festival. We have in addition to film, music, and interactive, we also have a food conference. We have a sports conference. We have a sustainability and eco conference. We have an education conference. We do, I'm sure, we have something called South by Southwest V2V in Las Vegas, which is a startup and entrepreneur conference. We like a lot of things, and we just try to, as a festival, they embrace, like, if you like something, what is that you like? And we try to find these niche audiences and cater to them how South by Southwest is. It's very curated programming. We try to look for what's next, what's fresh, what's new. A film like Krisha that's playing in the Critics Week, it started as a short film at our festival 2 years ago. Then this year it won our Grand Jury Award, and now it's in Cannes. And so it's we have a lot of shorts. We have play another 120 short films. We try to build these audiences. Support the filmmakers in a way that the U.S. does, which is not financially. Sometimes it's we don't have any. We're a for-profit film festival. We started as a music festival to sell beer, and that's what they wanted to do. In 1987, all of the kids, UT is a very large university, and all of the kids would go to spring break, and so the 1 week of the year, all the bars would lose a lot of money because all the kids were gone. And so we're like, well, we'll put all these bands in here, and then so the festival grew from that. And so we're a for-profit. We don't have any funding from any institutions other than we just sell badges and sponsorships and certain marketing opportunities. But we do a lot of things, and I don't. Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Jakub Duszyński, and maybe before I will introduce our new initiative, which is called Scope 50, I would like to mention an evolution of a certain idea. At the company that I work for, Gutek Film was created in 1994. I joined in 1997. And obviously, from the very beginning, we knew that we have 15 slots a year to pick creme de la creme, to cherry pick the best art house films that are out there at the festivals. But very soon we realized, around 2000, that it's not enough, that we are enthusiastic and we would love for much more films, and we'd love to share them with local audiences. So a festival called New Horizons was created to bring more films that not necessarily will end up being distributed in Poland, but at least local audiences have a chance to see them during those 10 days in Wrocław. At the beginning it was a different city, Cieszyn doesn't matter, but so we picked up altogether all the programmers, around 400 premieres, films for the festival, local premieres, whatever. And from the very beginning, the idea was how to find the best way to seduce, to engage local audiences for bold, challenging, uncompromising visions, films. And then we thought, okay, such a massive energy is being invested into this event, this festival. There should be some sort of a outcome, and maybe a few films could be picked up actually for distribution out of the festival. So why don't we make a competition? The competition was there from the very beginning, and ask the audience to give its award, audience award, to a film which we guarantee will be released in Poland by us. Okay, so people were voting, but it was an anonymous vote. You know, it's very often, you never know the criteria, people are running around, it's not a real discussion. Okay. And then at some point I thought, why don't we use the internet to go even further and focus certain initiative around interaction between us and the audience, not necessarily through the festival New Horizons, but directly our distribution company would create a project that would be aiming at engaging local cinephiles and offering them a unique chance absolutely for free to watch, let's start from 10 films we feel they should see, and tell us what they think before we make the decision before they actually make a decision which film will be picked up for distribution. So basically I realized that, you know, the whole traditional way of acquiring a film was all about me or my colleagues going to festivals and behaving like Marco Polo, going and deciding, okay, this year it's vanilla and ginger and turmeric, whatever, and bringing it back to our marketplace and saying, hey, check our goods, it's delicious, fantastic, this is cool. And some people were saying, I don't feel like vanilla, totally not. And these films were bombing at our market. So I thought, like, it doesn't make sense. There is internet and we have to take the audience on this trip. Of course, not physically, we cannot afford it, but it's possible to show them the films, the best of the festivals. So if we are releasing 15 films a year, why don't we experiment during these transitional years where nobody knows what's the sustainable business model? Why don't we delegate the power of choice to the audience? So here comes an internet platform called Festival Scope, and our friends who created it, because we felt we don't have the means, the money to create a new platform, state-of-art experience for the audience. Let's use Festival Scope. Let's place there 10 films. And so I introduced this idea to several distributors, and they all said, yeah, I mean, you know, I feel completely lost. I really travel to festivals and I see at least 7, 10 films that I totally love, and I always say to a sales agent, you know what, I love it, but it's too small, you know, it would never ever work in my country. So I felt that exactly these are the films that we want to show to this sample audience, but not test audience, and ask them how they feel. So 5 territories: UK, Soda Pictures; Czech Republic, Aero Films, Slovakia as well; Austria, Stadtkino; Gutek in Poland, and Cinefilco in Hungary. 5 participants, festival scope, and we as programmers are dropping into a bag some 25 titles that we discovered in Locarno, Rotterdam, Toronto, and so on and so on and so on. One condition: these films are not sold to our countries, okay? So these 25 films, and then out of these 25 nominations, which are cleared, the rights are cleared with sales agents. And I felt this is going to be difficult. I mean, if we tell to the sales agents that here's this initiative, they have to offer a film, the film is going to be seen locally by selected audiences online, and we only guarantee that one of these films, based on the public vote, the audience's vote, is going to be picked up for distribution. So, you know, we have 1 per 10, very small chances it's going to be yours, but still, it was an enthusiastic, to my surprise, response. They all said, you know what, we prefer to let them, to show them rather than they gather dust on a shelf. These films were introduced to the markets, at the markets several months ago. Nobody picked them up, let's try. So we had really a good selection, like a winner of San Sebastian, Magical Girl, like Party Girl from Flash Pyramid, you know, a best film from last year's edition of Cannes, and so on and so on. Like really great mix, not the leftovers, because this would be a disaster if these were films that nobody wants, everybody feels they are like really not successful at all. Great mix, every territory picked up 10 titles for its audience. They all ended up on a platform, and then local coordinators of the project started actually the most important thing, which is picking up the audience, the right mix. We felt at the beginning that we need to test this project, so even though we felt it would be great to open it up to 1,000 people or 500 people, we felt let's start with 50. It's not enough, but at least we have to see if it's a user-friendly experience, if it works, if we're not going to have a massive headache because if something doesn't work. So we sent it out, messages, we created a campaign. I'm sorry, I cannot show you the trailer, but there was a trailer in all of the art house cinemas in Poland and an online campaign saying if you feel like you're enormously interested in movies, if you'd love to go to festivals, if you go beyond what is released in your country, maybe this is a project for you. If you want to see 10 films that were never released in your country for free, you know, tell us a little bit more about you. So people were writing, where do they live, what is their background, how old are they, and so on and so on. And we wanted to handpick 50 people with very different experiences to get and to offer them an access to this website to watch 10 films. And to make it short, in every country it's a different winner. So for example, we know that every audience in every territory had a completely different taste, and we are releasing these films in June because it was a 12-month project. But also, it doesn't end with the audience voting based on 3 criteria: satisfaction, originality, a recommendation, whether they would recommend such a film to their friends, and they have to rate the film from 1 to 10, those 3 criteria. And then, of course, they can express themselves, write reviews, and it's all about also engaging them in local premieres. Let's say someone is running a someone is running a film club in one region of Poland. He's going to be an ambassador of that film there, and so on and so on. So now they're helping us again because they feel very attached to the films that they voted for. We'll see what is the outcome, but we're checking if there is any added value, because normally these films, these 10 films that we saw at festivals, and we're like, this one is going to be picked up. They end up doing 3,000 to 5,000 admissions. If there's any added value, some sort of a help from the audience to bring them out, it would be great. So we're working now on the 2nd edition. We again applied because it was supported by audience development program, by European Media Program, and we're working on a 2nd edition to open it up to more people, more companies. So that's it was pretty long.
It's really interesting, and I already have a question actually. Do you tend to select from those 50 people that are like trendsetters or that are important on the social media, that are trying to
Yes,
gather.
but we wanted to go. We wanted to go beyond fans of Gutek film, people that are, usually do likes on our Facebook site. So we have like a 70-year-old psychiatrist. We have unemployed people. We have youngsters for sure. People from all the cities, from small villages. It was not easy to pick them up, but we didn't want to, end up with students from Warsaw. You know what I mean? So it's a combination, and these people are interacting with each other. They have their accounts, and they discuss films, and we knew, or we realized at some point that out of these 50, 20 are really active. They are like really pushing, asking, proposing posters, suggesting log lines, translating titles, and these people are really, we're still in touch with on everyday basis, and they are like, basically working on a PR of the winning film, which in case of Poland it's Magical Girl, in case of Hungary it's Out of Nature, in case of Czech Republic and Slovakia it's Blind. Soda Pictures picked up Reunion, the Swedish film that was also participating in the project, and Austria it's the latest Bruno Dumont. So it's very, and these films they would never ever be
distributed.
In our countries.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about this is that everything we've described, it actually is saying we need that for the cinema experience, that we need to work better with the audiences. And we actually wrote a little bit also in this year's Nostradamus report, which was released in January, so it's still quite fresh. And we wrote about this, that there are so many different challenges that the film industry is facing at the same time. One of them is that there seems to be this disconnect in mainstream cinema for sure, but also with independent film between the filmmakers and the audience, who the filmmakers are and who the audience are. This isn't entirely representative, even on the level of that there aren't enough female filmmakers and so on, and the kinds of voices that are represented on screen. And the kinds of experiences that are represented on screen are not representative, but also that there's something about fundamentally not caring. That filmmaking can be really good, but a lot of people are saying, well, they don't quite connect with the product. And then the other side of it is that we, as an industry, have started to face, and I find it incredibly interesting, because even here at Cannes this year, I hear this in a lot of panels. People are finally saying, you know what? We also made movies that weren't very good. Sometimes, when we're comparing some of the independent film that's being distributed in art house cinemas in Europe, for instance, with some of the best TV drama that is out there, we can't honestly say that the TV drama, that an episode of Transparent is worse than a lot of the films that are on our slate. And it's not. I mean, if the audience is actually making a choice to watch something that's a better quality of filmmaking, we can't really be angry at the audience for this, because we have developed this taste for them in a way. And the answer to many of these challenges actually is to talk earlier in the process with the audiences, already in production, to connect with somebody who you think is going to be the audience of your film and talk to them about your idea is one thing. But also bringing them in distribution, I think, is an ingenious idea, because it speaks to the same thing, that audiences are increasingly allowed to be fans and increasingly allowed to participate in creating the experiences that they want. But the traditional theatrical distribution industry, even on the art house side, hasn't always been very good at this. Of course, local cinemas have worked very well with film clubs and so on, but as an industry, not so much.
Thank you, Josef.
I want to say two things. One thing, that all the participants here are representatives from film festivals, and there's a major difference between theatrical distribution and film festivals. Basically, because this often is a one-time event. People can plan for it for a long time and have much more, like, they can have perspective on just one occasion screening, which is, as you said, an event. Create events. On the other side, the distribution is much more of an impulsive thing to do, to go to cinema, which you have to work, I believe, in different ways with audience development. And as my perspective of audience development, because that's like what we primarily have been working with at our festival. it's really much about reaching out to communities and to activate the right even individuals to like to get under this like general marketing processes. Like I don't know. I personally find that many cinemas aren't quite interested in like trying to actually to try to attract new audience groups and to make an effort to really go underground and to talk to people, because for me marketing and even for distribution's sake is all about talking to people and to get a discussion and to start something more than just advertising, putting up posters, whatever, you know. It's a much more delicate process, and as for our sake, when we try to reach, to go from film festival event to distribution, it's really hard to find the line between how you market a film festival and a film festival screening, how you market a distribution company, because what we notice is that we are kind of brainly damaged by how you make a film festival, because you want to have, oh, we're going to have a red carpet, we're going to have international guests, and it becomes like every screening becomes like a huge event which no one can afford. So it's quite hard to find this new way to reach out to audience for the distribution for the film festival. I think it's quite easy. It's quite because it's a one-time event. You can like really clearly see which group do we want to attract and how do we attract them and how do we really make an effort to reach them. But for the distribution, it's more like an ongoing train. So how do you like attract them for a longer period of time? I think it's hard and very easy.
Very good. And do you find that becoming a distributor is more challenging? I mean, do you see that you could do like mini festivals actually that are alternative distribution? I mean, we're personally convinced that if you are continuing like to do events and making this extra special thing that will bring the audience, do you find that this is the more challenging because it's more money basically, or is it the manpower? Like, how do you see?
That goes hand in hand very often.
Yes,
but if you for us, like, if we put up a goal that we want to put out, let's say 4 films each year, for theatrical distribution, and we want to have around 10 to 20 cinemas for each film. It's basically, you know, it's impossible for the distributor for the distributor to like make each screening or each opening in each city like as something special event. This has to be for the cinemas, for the it's
Sure.
You know, everyone must work on the same scale, because you know we as a distributor can take the chances. We can take the films both from our festival and from our contact network. We can put them in the right place. We can give them out to the cinemas. But from there, it has to be like you have to be in consensus of how you're going to work. And for the festival, you have much more control of what's happening. So I think, you know, the relationship between distributor and the cinemas are very delicate, and you have to really work on that.
One of the key issues for me is how to stretch the time span, the period when a film that we're talking about, the kind of a bold or film where there is no ready-made audience, nobody's waiting for this blockbuster. It's something you need to work on. So how to stretch that time period. So I felt that festivals, preview screenings are essential for this. And we treat also this exposure that I'm talking about at our website as a way to make the film available for much longer time. Because basically what I realized throughout these years of working in distribution, as we're talking also about distribution, is that if you release a beautiful film that you're fully confident that people will love, there's still a challenge how to how to attract this first 5,000 people to discover that film and spread word of mouth. And this is a challenging thing. First you thought it's a campaign, right? It's a campaign, it's the right poster, it's the money you invest into the campaign of the Romanian film about abortion, which just got Palme d'Or. But it's very difficult. And then if the film doesn't open well, also in the art house cinemas, it very quickly goes down and is kicked out of cinemas. So the answer is figure out how to stretch this thing. Open at a festival, go on with preview screenings, make it available at the Scope project or whatever, and then introduce it when it was already seen and recommended by a couple of thousand people, not 200, 300. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one big question is how do you, what we're talking about, I guess, is how do you find those ambassadors? And there actually this convergence between different kinds of distribution and the festivals are very useful, as you say, because you have already had access to people in the room. And then in a way, it may make more sense to invest in that experience, in that room, and say, okay, how do we make sure that everybody who goes to this screening, who are possibly the only people who will be the ambassadors for this film once we release it broader, how do we make sure that they are emotionally engaged in this film? And the traditional way, of course, is to let them meet the filmmaker, and that works super well sometimes, but it could be other things as well. And I think that the Breakfast Club example is actually a wonderful example of this. You can build other things around the theme. Maybe not a choir singing about abortion, you know, but you can, but those experiences can be experimented with, and it connects to a wider issue, which is that while of course theatrical is projected to grow in all markets, the worrying thing is that that the growth isn't going to come, they say, from admissions. It comes from the ticket prices going up. And I think actually this is not a bad thing necessarily, because it means it creates a sort of market space to make these kind of premium experiences where I will pay a little bit more to go to the cinema to experience something, because compared to almost every other kind of entertainment outside the home, just going out to a restaurant and have dinner, for instance, it's still often cheaper to go to the movies, even to a premium screening, whether or not that involves like wine and live music or an IMAX theater. But there's this challenge is that how do we support a culture of film going of cineasts? Which is the huge challenge, because historically, of course, that's what film festivals were. Being a film fan or being a cineast was a subcultural identity. If you were into French cinema, if in the Nordic countries, certainly, if you watched black and white French movies, there were other things that came with that. It's a social identity that is reflected in your fashion and the kind of books you read and the kind of hats you wear, and there are many things like that, and you belong to a little community. The ubiquitous content society has taken away that subcultural identity, and somehow film festivals are still the space where we can create that. And that is why I have a question for you, which is, it's a little bit surprising almost to hear, and wonderful to have a film in the context of South by Southwest, which is so future-oriented, because it seems like you're saying, well, you know what, theatrical indies are just as important as the most cutting-edge technology, and it's just as future-oriented, and it's just as much as about. Because could you describe for me? This is my question. Could you describe for me what South by Southwest's ethos is? Like, what is if I come to your festival, if I'm the kind of person who comes to your things and trusts your judgment of what's cool and what's interesting to me, who am I? What kind of a person am I?
Oh, these easy questions. I don't know. We look for a South by Southwest. I mean, none of us are cinephiles. I mean, we're film lovers. We love film. We love watching films. You know, like you were talking about television. We have an episodic program where we started to premiere broadcast series premieres of TV pilots. Because we love TV too, and so we were like, well, you know, all these independent filmmakers and people are working in this medium, and we watch television all the time. It's like, why can't we, you know, showcase that work too? So we do that as well. At South by Southwest, we say that we look for unique stories or stories told in unique ways. And whenever we program, I mean, we program, we don't really look at who's famous, who's, you know, I mean, of course, if there's, you know, actors in it that could possibly attract an audience, that's great, but we want to connect with these films, and we want to connect with them, we want to feel something. We want them to move us, we want to hate them, we want to love them, we want some sort of a connection to them. And so we feel that if we connect to these films, then our audiences will connect to the films. So that's really all we do, is just program the films we love, and somehow our taste has been working. So our audience is it's a mix of it's a lot of obviously Austin locals. We have a ton of industry. We have a lot of press. We have a lot of people who actually our biggest growing market group of people who come are our platinum guests, which go to all 3 events, and then the gold badge. We have 3 conferences, so we have a film, music, and interactive, and then our badges don't have different hierarchies. It's like a badge for Harvey Weinstein and a badge for your grandmother. They both get in the same line. So, we do this a very egalitarian event. We don't do press and industry screenings. Every film is shown with press, industry, general public. It's all in the same place. We feel it's just a better way to watch movies. I've also had a buyer tell me that we figured out how to get buyers from not walking out of movies because they don't have to walk out in front of all the general public. But yeah, so South by Southwest, we're younger. We want we embrace edgy films. We embrace controversy. We embrace for the documentaries we play, we're more of a pop culture and character-driven stories than social issue docs. I mean, we just want to have fun. we want to have a good time, and we want to celebrate film. We want to celebrate this industry. We want to celebrate just I don't know, cheesy with life. I mean, it's just a good time. I mean, if you come to South by Southwest, you are looking for something new. You're looking for something maybe you didn't know you were looking for. You're open to new ideas. Do
you feel that you're empowered or not empowered? Do you feel that you need to market your events to reach out to audiences, or do you feel that you're very much an industry event as well? Like,
our bosses would say we were an industry event. I mean, we don't have a separate industry office because they consider anyone that buys a badge is part of the industry. We don't cater to buyers, and so, I mean, films get sold at South by Southwest. Deals happen, but it's a very organic market. It's not there aren't booths, and we don't have press and industry screenings, like I said. Okay.
No, it's just to mention because I think you wanted to see.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Yeah, did you answer? So what I'm hearing is you have an audience that skews young, that cares about being up to date on the latest things, that probably is, I would identify as geeky, or wouldn't at least see that as a bad thing, and is hip as well. So there's a kind of, you have found a way, which I think is very interesting, to take the traditional cultural cachet, the cultural credibility, cultural capital that came with being a cineast or a cinephile, and you have translated that into a sort of contemporary parlance. And that's something where I think a lot of traditional festivals are struggling, because it's still this sort of basker wielding, sort of idea of the old movie kind of personality, and that if you don't have an education in classical cinema, or if you can't casually talk about like Truffaut, then you're not welcome. And I feel that at South by Southwest you created an atmosphere that says you can absolutely be passionate about quality storytelling and not know that stuff, and this can be your gateway into that history as well. Should you be interested to geek out on that later on, you're very welcome to, right? Is this a fair assessment, do you think? Absolutely. Yeah, we need to take a leaf out of your book, I think.
I have a question, maybe for Jakub, but it totally applies to everyone. What is the success for you in terms of, if you are managing to have your 50 people select a film, are you happier in a way if 10,000 people can manage to see it on a big screen, or is it a success as well if it's 10,000 people who watch it on the VOD platforms, for example? In terms of your personal...
My personal satisfaction would come if it's 10,000 people in cinemas. Okay. We're working in a cinema, we're basically trying to make sure that films are being discovered on a big screen in cinemas. And I have nothing against VOD, it's fantastic. But I mean, cinema would be something that that would make us extremely happy that a lot of people went to see these films in cinema. Yeah, 10,000 people is exactly the number that I'm looking at.
Okay. What about you, Josef? Like, if you're looking into distributing the films that you're selecting for the festival, like, is it also magical in a way if people are able to catch up the films on VOD? Like, is it something you're targeting?
You know, I would like to say what we get satisfaction of is basically that we take 30 people that has never been to an art house cinema before,
Okay.
to come to the cinema, to jointly together watch a film with traditional cinema goers, with young students, blah 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 blah. To have this true diversity and interaction, that is important for us. But it's also and I would actually say that is more important for us than to spread the highest art house quality films. You know, it's the interaction, and it's what you can do with the film as a tool to reach, which is very important. But I would also like to say something. It has nothing to do with the films out of film festivals to distribution, but I think it is an essential problem. How to find films to go to, especially in Sweden. I don't know about the US or Poland. But when you want to go to cinema, as I said before, it's an impulsive thing to do. You don't have nothing to do. In the evening, you go to the cinema to watch a film. So what you do is that you generally go online and you go to, for instance, SF, which is like the commercial cinema in Sweden. You search for the films there, but you never get like a whole perspective on the films that are screened in the country, because you only like reach out on a platform when you only like search for the commercial films. So there's no like database to like collect the films that are generally, because many people don't know about Roy or Angeredesby or Spegeln or Rio independent cinemas. So I think that's an essential problem, because it's not like a big platform to search for films. And I don't know, maybe I can ask you, Poland and US, how's it working in your countries?
If I can jump in there, I think in Sweden it's particularly bad because we essentially have a sort of a monopoly situation almost in the commercial cinema market. But it's true that the independent cinemas have been very bad at coordinating. Everybody has their own little website.
Underrepresented, you mean?
And just as the communication is very difficult. If you're already a film fan, of course you can find out what movies are playing. But if you just want to go to the movies and you want to figure out what's playing tonight, you're not going to find the independent fare.
That's what you need to create.
Yeah.
That's a new business.
Yeah. So exactly. So, but then you have to get all the independent the sort of exhibitors to cooperate, and that's a big thing, big challenge also. But there again, film festivals, which actually physically make people visit these places and make them aware that they exist, have an important role. I want to answer also your previous question before I pass the mic on, which is that I think for us, for all of us, I think there's a challenge in interpreting the data. So a Swede will see around 80 movies a year. On average, of those, just under 2 on average will be in the cinema. However, if you live in a city, it's closer to 4. So already it's about the availability of theaters somewhere. And what's a good success? I think this is a very Swedish answer, but I think there's getting somebody who would. I mean, let's think about those 4 movies, because probably, one of them is going to be an Avengers movie, and one of them is going to be, or like a Marvel movie, and one of them is going to be another American sequel, and then one of them is going to be the big commercial Swedish bestseller of that year. And then that leaves maybe one or just under one film, one slot where a typical average moviegoer could even consider to see something different. And if we can expand that one visit into 1 or 2, or we can get somebody who would never have considered to see that kind of a film to go to the theater, then the numbers might still look the same. But if they actually saw the Swedish film, The Reunion, or see a feature-length documentary in the cinema, it's not going to show up in the statistics, but the investment in movie-going culture, there will be a payback over time, I think. Even though that may then be reflected on their selections on the VOD channels. And if they start to see more documentaries on Netflix, that's also fine. That's a good outcome as well, I think.
we're pretty lucky in Austin. We have 2 independent theater chains. We have one that is, which most of you probably know of, is Alamo Drafthouse, and another is called Violet Crown Cinemas. We don't, no one I don't know anyone in Austin. I mean, I'm sure there are people that do it, that go to the mainstream cinemas, but everyone goes to the Alamo Drafthouse. I mean, it's an experience. It is pure cinema culture. I mean, some people don't like the fact that they serve food during the movies, and they have actual servers that come to your and take your orders and serve you beer and drinks during the film. Yes, yeah, you have. So every other row is taken out, and the rows are their tables put in, and the servers come, and it's quiet. I mean, it's weird, but it works. Totally works. No, not at all. They turn the volume up. You know, it doesn't distract. I mean, you're in it. I mean, you're eating, yes. I mean, but it's amazing. But so you can book your tickets online. You know, they have a very strict no talking policy, no cell phone policy. They try to do I mean, South by Southwest and Alamo Drafthouse and Fantastic Fest have all grown up, you know, and we kind of like feed off of each other. They've been doing special event screenings forever, and I'm sure you guys have that same thing in your country, you know. But they'll play Shaft and have a 40-ounce beer specials, or they'll give you, you know, play the Big Lebowski and do. You know, White Russians, and so and then they'll play spaghetti westerns with all-you-can-eat pasta, and it's an experience that you want to go to. They do a pre-show when you come into the theater. There's not 40 minutes of ads that you're looking at. You know, there's they curate the pre-shows based on the content that they're playing. I mean, they really put a lot of time and effort into this, and they make the cinema experience like pure, and like you want to go there to watch a movie. When I go to a multiplex, I know that there's going to be, you know, maybe some kid on his cell phone, or maybe, you know, somebody brought their kids, or which they have at the Alamo Drafthouse, and they call it Baby Day. And you can bring your kids, and they turn the lights up a little, and they turn the music down, and your kids can cry all they want, but you're with a bunch of other parents, and so, you know, you're all in it together. And then the Violet Crown Cinema is another model where it's micro cinemas where they're 50 seats or under, and they have they have one of the highest per screen averages in the United States for independent films, is because and they're very small cinemas, and they're competing with the screens that are 200-300 seats, and they play. They have a very quick turnover, so they're able to get one extra screening in every day, so that is helping the per screen averages. And they are also, you know, making it a very nice experience. You can book your tickets online. You can buy your seats online. You have free parking. You know, they have really nice menu of good food. They don't serve you, but you can take it in the theater, and they have like armrests like they have here. And so, yeah, there's a lot of options in Austin to go and experience movies in a theater. We have 16 different film festivals just in Austin. You know, people are watching movies. We're the largest city in the United States without a professional sports team. So, you know, we consider film, music, like that is our professional sports. We don't, you know, tickets for 4 to go to a football game is like $400. But you can take your family to a movie, or, you know, take them to a live music event for $100, and so yeah.
I mean, this sounds like paradise on earth, and also I love, of course, as a sort of culture, like little old culture lady, I love this idea of sort of pitching sports and culture against each other, like yay! But you said something that I think is very important to remember, and I could have said the exact same thing myself. You said, I don't know anyone who goes to multiplexes. Yeah, that doesn't mean people don't go to multiplexes in Austin. Of course, it just means that the kind of people you know in Austin don't go to multiplexes. And it means that the kind of people I know in Malmö, where I live, or in Gothenburg, you only go to multiplexes to a limited degree. And this is actually, I think, for people in the film industry, a super, super important thing to self-monitor, because of course what's also happened is that the way all of these social media tools that we've been given also make it creates these little bubbles opinion corridors, we call them in Sweden, where everybody kind of agrees and everybody kind of has the same lifestyle. So then it comes very much about like, all of us who like to go to indie cinemas, how can we make that experience better? What don't we like about multiplexes? How can we make this thing we're making for us better for us? So in a way, I'm going to change my answer a little bit before. No, I don't care so much about whether those people who go to the movies 4 times a year, whether I get them to go to the independent cinema once, even though that would be wonderful. I care about the people who are 0 times a year goers. If you can just get them into any movie theater once, that would be, I think, the success.
Well, the thing about, yes, I agree that I don't know everyone in Austin, and a lot of people go to, multiplexes. But the fact is that the Drafthouse is growing exponentially faster than any other movie theater. They take over shut down theaters that were originally multiplexes. They build them from scratch. They're not new, Regals or AMCs or Lowe's being built in Austin. They're new Drafthouses being built.
And they're building a multiplex in LA, right?
Yeah, they're not just single screens. They're 8 to 12 screen Alamo Drafthouse cinemas with huge kitchens. They sell more on a Friday and Saturday night. The Alamo Drafthouse is the largest restaurant in Austin. They serve dinner to more people than any other restaurant combined, pretty much. It's another, like dinner and a movie, it's like all in one place, which your wife sometimes doesn't like because she wants to talk to you. But it's because but everyone, once they experience an Alamo Drafthouse or something where, the cinema is what is like front and center, like this is the experience, you need to respect it. And we're gonna give you a good time and make this an experience that you want to, spend the money, get out of your house, drive in traffic, get a babysitter, whatever. It's, I think that is the future is making the experience better for the attendees. And you can see that in Austin. I mean, it's not that, fewer people are going to the multiplexes because they'd rather the Alamo Drafthouse experience. They'd rather an experience where they're not. Do you have a question? Are we taking? Sure.
Do we only have 2? Could have one more. Thank you. That would be helpful. Yeah, but we're broadcasting.
I didn't mean for that to be so complicated. What I'm wondering is that's a commercial model. Alamo Drafthouse is now a national theater chain in the United States, and that works fine for them. But what do festivals take from that, right? What is it for us to learn for festivals who are maybe nonprofit, who don't have big kitchens?
Sure. No, sure.
Alamo Drafthouse, charges a minimum of food and beverage that if you're using their place, you have to sell, or you have to pay them for it when you're a festival. So it's kind of like, how does that economically work for festivals? And actually, I'm interested in conceptually.
As a festival, I mean, I think you can, respect them. I mean, I think that making sure that you are really like adamant about no talking and no, I think that's something you can take across. I mean, some people, like even in press and industry, there's huge, the kid called 911 on someone in Toronto because they were using their phone in a press screening, and so, people don't want to be bothered, but they want to have the experience of being in a without being distracted. So that's something the Alamo Drafthouse model could lend itself to that, and also the pre-screening of their pre-show ads is enhancing the experience of the actual attendee experience at the theater. So we do before our screenings is we run slides, a slideshow, and it's slides of every film that we're playing at the festival. It's a big still with the times they're playing and the log line. And so while they're sitting there, just you have these eyes that are just sitting there waiting for So why not be promoting things to them? Why not be entertaining them while they're sitting there? And then maybe when they want to go to see another screening, like, oh, that was a fun experience. That was something that was enjoyable. Yeah, maybe not everyone serves food, but maybe you can make your concessions better, or maybe you can upgrade the stuff you're selling, and just make it more of an event, an experience. So I think that's just a way to. Does that make sense?
to add a few things to the actual screenings. I think that was also one of the topics we wanted to raise. Is that in Europe, it's quite a funny trend at the moment. Is that we're bringing not only film to theaters. There's like what we call like event cinema, where we bring like operas and ballets, and it's really interesting to see that for this kind of content, people are ready to pay more. There's a kind of more prestigious, I don't know, and there's champagne to be served in the cinemas where it's not an option when it's like regular films. So it's kind of funny, and we were discussing this actually to see, and that's festival, but that's also the movie-going experience, is that maybe there is a shift in what people expect when they go to the cinema, because they know that there are so many films accessible from home, but what is the extra thing that will take them to cinema? And that's generally what festivals are bringing. They're bringing an event, maybe more people, both, everyone's.
So one thing to remember about cinema is that, and this is completely counterintuitive, but it's that experientially, when I go to the movie theater, it's a live experience. Mm-hmm. It happens at a physical place at a specific time, and I have to go there with my body and experience it when it's on, and I can't pause it. So that means that in a digital environment where we live, this is basically live, just like going to hear a band or something like that. But the cinema exhibitors aren't treating it like this at all. For them still, they believe that the business model is that what they're selling is exclusive access to content. And that's part of it for sure, but that's a very small part of it, I think, in the landscape we're in today. And in the wider commercial space, there has been a huge revolution in something called service design, the design of services, people systematically thinking about how can we make service or customer experiences of every kind better. And again, this has been pretty much entirely ignored by the theaters. So when if we're applying this to what you were asking about, there's two very different things. One is that the baseline experience of going to the movies, your average movie-going experience, could be so much better. For me, going to the movies, a normal cinema, in a commercial environment, or indeed to a festival, the whole experience is about standing in line. I'm standing in line for the ticket, I stand in line for the bathroom, and in the Nordic countries we have bad climate, so I have to carry my winter clothes and my big snacks and things, and there's not a coat check. It's so uncomfortable. And then I have to stand in line to get into the theater and out of the theater. While I sit in my chair and watch the movie, it's still magical, but everything around it sucks. Then at the premium end, and making that, just thinking about how can we make a festival where people don't have to stand in line uncomfortably, and where every time you need to pee, you can actually do it. Just that already. And where you can, every time you're thirsty, water is available. If you get there, you will have much more return visits. And it's insane that we even have to say this out loud, but it's true, and I can tell from your laughter. At the other end of this, there come the premium experiences, right? Where it's like, okay, what else is there? What is this movie about? What am I experiencing? What can we make around this? How can we make this a meeting? Maybe, Nordic countries, we don't like to talk to strangers, but is it possible to create an atmosphere where I would want to talk to somebody who's sitting in the chair next to me, or meet somebody, or ask a question at a Q&A? How can we make this about, or even talk about the film online afterwards? Whatever it is, maybe it's a Twitter hashtag. How can we create these, we call them alibis for interaction, but how do we create these alibis for people to actually interact with each other? And that's, I think, conceptually what we need to take away from these kinds of models.
I definitely agree with everything you said, but I think there's one point that I like all the time we like put this away, and it's still the audience development, because we can make the most beautiful event available. You can make like the most geeky underground subcultural blah 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 thing, but it doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter, because what matters is reaching out to audiences. So you can make a live broadcasted opera, but it's the same. It's still the cultural the people with big cultural capital that still goes. Perhaps they come 1, 2, or 3 times more, but it's still the same audience. For me, as I see it, that's the case. So I'm all about like making good events, making something that is suit. Everything you say is perfect, and I'm sure you work with audience development as well. But it's like you have to discuss it, how to do it in the best of ways, because if we don't, it doesn't matter. We can close all the cinemas.
For me, also, I forgot to mention that we're exhibitors. We're running theaters in Poland, two art house cinemas, one in Warsaw, one in Wrocław. But I would love to know more, find an answer to a question: does the audience want to be anonymous in a cinema, for example? That's very important for me. So you make this physical effort to go to a place, a festival. You watch the film, you loved it or you hated it, and you expect maybe to mingle with people at the festival club, to discover someone, confront his opinion with yours, and stuff like that. On a daily basis, when you go to movies, outside of the festival, would you like to remain anonymous? So what makes a cinema experience, actually? Because the screening halls are becoming smaller and smaller. In the art houses, we're going to build probably 2 new screening rooms for 60 people. And at the same time, we know, as someone mentioned, that a true cinephile can have a 4K screen at home and a DCP next year, no problem. So you can watch it with your friends and family. So what is the difference? What makes a cinema experience, actually? And I just thought, like, if it's a possibility to meet some new people, that's the undercurrent, actually. That's why you're going also, to observe. You can decide whether you want to be passive in this, like look around, or active and approach. So maybe a new sort of a agreement that people that are coming to certain screenings, they mingle in a way. Online, physically, they stay, they talk a little bit more in the restaurant. I'm just curious what you think about it. Like, what makes it different than inviting people to see it on your plasma 4K?
I was at a lecture of somebody who runs all, I think, the museums in Glasgow, and he had this wonderful quote, and I don't remember who it's from, but he said a museum is a place, a museum is a public place where you can go to be alone with other people. And I think that it's important that the cinema is also like that. The cinema is also a place, and I'm one of those people who goes to the movies alone, and I know that for some people this is very strange, but I like that, and I like being in that room alone with these strangers in a place that feels entirely safe, and that is very valuable. And I think that is something that we should remember, that a big part of the audience has that with them, and so that when we start thinking about how can we create a moment in the theater at the beginning of the film, where we create a sense of community. We are the people who chose to be here at this hour to experience this thing together. Even if you just say those words, maybe in a less poetic manner, that already creates a sort of temporary community. But that it's also important to give people some privacy and to give people to leave this space so that you don't feel that you're being forced to give up your email address, because there's this a kind of social spam that can happen also.
I personally, I see myself as a cinephile, but in regards to what we're talking about, I just want to make a short note that people are more important than films. And that's the starting point of working with film, for me at least, and putting that thing in front makes everything much more fun and much more. You can be more creative with that concept than putting the films first and then the people. The people must be first, and because it's without people there's no films.
Can I ask you then about for instance, if we just take the very specific case of the Malm Arab Film Festival, you're talking about new audience groups all the time, but if you can be quite specific, so I would imagine, for instance, that a big part of your target audience would be people with Swedes with an Arab background, or recent immigrants as well to Malmö. But these are two very different categories, because of course there are Swedes with Arab backgrounds who have been Swedes for generations, but maybe they still have some culture and language as well, and then people who are quite recent immigrants. And if we're just taking those two different audience groups, how do you go about reaching them?
But I can tell, because that will be revealing our audience secret. No, but we're not like. As I said before, we're a Swedish film festival working with Arab films, so our aim is not to attract refugees. No. That's not what we're doing, even though that's wonderful as well. And I think with our like, I don't know the exact English term for it, but with our like investigation, how do you say it? Audience Studies, yeah, exactly. I think we have around 40% with Arabic background, and the rest is just Swedes, you know, plain croissant Swede. So it's like I can, as I said before, the thing with working with audience group is that even though we in Sweden believe that we are quite individualistic, we don't have these communities, but we do. There are communities everywhere. So it's, for me, because I work very much with this question, and it's all about reaching out to the right individuals who can like make it like you have to talk to people, you have to work, spend a lot of hours calling people, and you know this and this is not something that you only can do like for a minor event. You still have to like activate communities to make something like important to people. It's for me it's quite simple, but it takes some time to do it. It's a very simple question, simple answer. But that's it.
And maybe more general question, like how do you think there's a possibility that films that are available basically on the online market, or if you're creating, all of you, like from your event, a VOD market, or do you think that people who would only be addressed to watch a film on the VOD can actually be attracted again to go to the theaters and go to cinema? Do you think that more festival goers will go online later and share experience and share films? How do you think the balance can work from the online market to the movie-going experience?
For us, we don't work with online markets,
Okay.
and
You don't want to, or you?
As I said before, the most important thing for us is to work with people and not with film primarily. Of course, it's film, but it's film for the people, and the most interesting thing for us is to place people with different experiences in the same room and share a common experience and then talk about it. That's like it's like very simple. So perhaps it would be interesting to put films online in this way, but for us, I don't see that in the near future. So I will just pass the question on.
I think the numbers seem to be pretty clear that for instance, VOD services specialized in especially niche VOD services perform best in geographical areas where there are also, for instance, art house theaters. So that there is this idea of a film-going culture, a film fan culture that I'm talking about. I'm not just making it up. It's based on numbers. So the distinction is, I don't think there's a very clear binariness between them. And we've been watching films on television for decades, and we haven't stopped going to the movies. So I think that that relationship is quite just as organic as between television and the cinemas. However, I think that people do expect more flexibility. There are certain kinds of and that films and screening times and so on should be very easy to find. We've been very spoiled with that, and when the cinemas or the festivals are bad at making this information available, that creates the barrier where I think more people are going to give up and say, okay, fine, then let's just stay at home, or let's just go somewhere. Let's go watch this movie. Let's go watch a movie somewhere where they actually want me to be there. I think it's a reaction that people will have.
Thank you.
I mean, as a father with 2 children, I think VOD is necessary. You can't always, get out there and go to a movie in a theater, but I still want to watch as many movies as possible. And so there's an audience out there for the digital platforms, and if you don't make that available to them, then they're gonna, maybe not everyone, but people will pirate the films. People will do whatever they can to watch the films the way they want to watch the films. We've done day and date with the festival premieres and video on demand. We see it as, some of these films at a festival, this might be the most attention the film ever gets in its whole life. And so why are you going to try to recreate that 6 months later? It's like, this is it. Like, this is a time where people are talking about it, press are talking about it, your friends are talking about it. They come home from a screening and they're like, oh man, I saw this film at South by. You got to watch it." And they're like, "How?" They're like, "I don't know. 6 months later, maybe you'll find out." It's like, why are we making people? Why is it so hard? You know, and yeah, sure. VOD day and date does not work for every film, and there are different models and release strategies and all that good stuff. But video on demand has to be a part of the equation. You know, I mean, why don't you want to make that money? I mean, if that's how people want to watch your films, you know, there's tons of platforms now you can do it. You can sell it on Vimeo or VHX or, and again, I talk for the United States. I don't know.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming to us.
I know there's different VOD windows for France and all these. There's a lot of other things I understand that I don't understand. So, yes, I'd say good VOD.
Yeah, I remember I had the courage last December in Buenos Aires at Ventana Sur to approach Thierry Fremont and to mention to him at breakfast at the hotel, do you realize that Certain Regard selection is, it's just 10% maybe of these films that are being released, distributed around Europe or other countries, whatever. And does it make you consider using Cannes as a global property that would open up and that would actually put these films during Cannes Film Festival online on VOD platforms? And he was very mysterious, but it looked like they're already there. They're already like thinking about it, people in Cannes. So I'm just curious about these big festivals like Cannes, Berlin. Are they developing ideas how to use festivals in order to actually use the momentum, use the whole event that was mounted with such an effort and actually get the audience to see these films? And maybe someone from a major festival could say that if we have someone in the room.
We'll open the questions very soon.
Sorry, Nikolai, but I'm very curious if okay. Because you can.
Good morning, everybody. So actually, yeah, a little festival in Berlin. Sorry, our weather is not as good as it's here, but we try the best with the programming. And actually, we're going into that direction. As many of you maybe know, we have the World Cinema Fund, which is our own small film fund for developing countries. And there's an initiative to put those films especially on a VOD platform, because of those films are not, let's say, also the big films we have from France or the Hollywood films, and we believe that for those films it's even more important to be available. And what I'm very curious to see how it's going to work out with this brand, because I think that's something we really have to offer also our colleagues here. We all know the screenings are full. The same film is released a couple of months afterward and nobody goes to see it. I think the Bellatar film was seen during the official Berlinale screenings more than in the whole distribution during the general release. Torrenhaus, exactly. So let's see how it's going to work for this really small film from remote countries on a VOD platform, and just to see, is there actually a need and an interest from the audience, not only to use Netflix and let's see the big films in this alternative digital distribution, but also, let's say, the small art house films we all fight so much for. And thank you, Jakob Dziękuję for including me.
It's a little bit like the Philharmonic in Berlin, opening up through the digital concert hall, Berlinale, Berlin Philharmonic, Simon Rattle. You can be there, watch it live, almost be there if you have a good, so a little bit Berlinale would go the way Berlin Philharmonic went, like you don't have to buy tickets and fly to Berlin, but you can watch these films online. Films,
concerts.
Well, this also connects pretty well again to the Autobory VOD channel, obviously, since the infrastructure is already there. Now, the festival isn't currently doing an ambitious day and date program, but this also has to do with the fact that all of the contracts are currently we're in this middle period right now with how all of the rights are operating. So in just a few years, I think inevitably this is going to happen, and I completely agree that it's a waste of attention in this goldfish bowl that we live in. When the goldfish are looking at something, that's when you need to make the case for watching it, because there's also, and we're also writing about this in the Nostradamus report, the big challenge now isn't to find good content to watch. No person in this room feels that it's difficult to think of like 10 good things that are out there that you haven't seen yet. So the question is about how do you identify the moment when when I also get a social benefit of watching it. And typically I want to watch it when people are talking about it. That's when it's worth something to me. So when I make the choice between something that's still there tomorrow and something that people are talking about today, of course, it's the latter choice. But it's not only about VOD, this thing. I'd like to say that one thing that's very sort of hot right now that people are talking about in the distribution or in the theatrical world, of course, is theatrical on demand. So this idea that audiences can get together in different ways and activate film screenings locally of movies they want to see, whether back catalog titles or new films. And actually the big pioneers of theatrical on demand are film festivals, because so many festivals for decades have kept these slots towards the end of the week where they showed Screen the Winners or the screenings that have been sold out. They just throw in more of those. And I think that this is a typical example of the festival world actually being a pioneer of something where we're not very good at marketing it or telling the story about, hey, these are your screenings, these are the audience. That can be a thing as well that you can do, similarly to what you guys are doing with online selection. We can lift that and say, check it out. Here are these screenings. Didn't make the thing. They might come back again. Instead of it's now quite often they're like you have to be in the know a little bit, and then maybe you'll know that on Saturday at something you can secretly find the information of what movie is screening or something like that. We must get better at this kind of thing.
Thanks a lot. I think it's, if you want to say one last thing, it would be great if you have questions.
Hi. My name's Jenny Waldo. I'm a filmmaker from Houston, Texas, and my brother lives in Austin, so I have been to South by before and am familiar. But I'm really interested in what you guys have been talking about, and I feel like there's certainly no clear answer, clear avenue that anyone's going in. And I also teach film at a college, and I have kids as well. And what I find really interesting about what's going on with the kind of younger generation, and I'm really curious about the Nostradamus project and kind of what you guys have been finding, and whether there's been research on children and children's viewing habits, because I find that in the last 10 years, the availability of online and small, watching things on smaller screens and how portable that is just astronomically different than when I was a child. And you were saying what's the difference between a cinema and watching it at home. For me, I would go to the cinema to feel small, in the same way that when you're camping and you see the stars, you feel tiny. And so that, to me, I do still go to the multiplexes because I just love to feel small, and just to feel all these things and be in a room with people. But I also love good stories, so I also, see everything. So, but I'm just fascinated in watching my children and how they don't really care about, at least not right now. We go see films with them, but I just feel like the way they consume videos and material is so different than the way that I do. And when I'm teaching, I feel like I'm shoving broccoli into my film students, face about, I'm still talking about film as an actual viable, medium, and they're like, why would you shoot on film, things like that. And I feel like I'm kind of in a bridge generation where there's a transition going on, and we're still maybe promoting an old model and trying to adapt. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing.
I have at least two answers to that. One is that again, cinema going is a behavior. It's not an innate quality of human biology. So as with everything kind of screen, this goes back on the parents quite a lot. Just like book reading, you can be in the best schools possible, but the best predictor for how your school results are going to be are the education level of the parents, and the screen habits of the grown-ups are incredibly important for this. And one thing is that a lot of us, actually, while our kids are awake, we don't even try to watch a long piece of work on a big screen. We wait until they go to bed. They never see us do that. We don't read books while our kids are awake. It would be a waste of time. So how can they know that that's something that we do? So the first thing is that it goes back to the families, of course. But I think that countries, and in Europe, of course, this is quite common, countries that have ambitious programs of schools working closely with cinemas and getting kids into the movie theater, engaging with less obvious choices of programming is incredibly important. So again, like for the US and for many other markets, obviously doing that with public funding is not going to work. But then that's if you want to make an investment into the future of the industry, that's, I think, putting effort in there is really important. But I have another answer also, which has to do with this thing, and it's that last July, Variety made a poll with American 13 to 18-year-olds, where they about all kinds of celebrities. They were asked these teenagers, American teenagers, to rate celebrities on likability, which is a sort of compound term for everything from how hot they are to how much I admire them. And we're writing about this in the latest report as well. But you can also just find this on Variety and think about these results. The top most likable celebrities for US teens are people like Smosh, the Fine Brothers, PewDiePie. If you don't know who these people are, you should absolutely go and Google them. They're YouTube stars. And the reason, if you do know who they are, it means that you live with teenagers. And that's just the case it is. Paul Walker, the actor, I think was in 6th place. But he had recently passed when this poll was done, and he had a movie out in cinema. So let's assume that result is artificially skewed. Then the first celebrity produced by the film industry to even make it into the top 10 is in 7th place, and that's Jennifer Lawrence. And the first music artist to make it onto this list is in 9th place, and that's Katy Perry. So what is it about Jennifer Lawrence that makes her better than everything that the commercial film and television industries produce? You know, and it's something about the tone. She seems like a normal person. And these YouTube talents are speaking directly to their audience in a way that they can recognize. And that makes them more important culturally for every teenager in America than anything that any of us has produced. And that is an important result.
Might also be because of the franchise, and I mean, she's now not just independent.
She's Katniss, yeah.
Yeah, this is something we haven't mentioned, actually. Yes, question first, and I'll get back with it.
I would like to give a comment on the question on children's content. I'm the director of CineKid, seen as the largest festival in the world for children, film, television, and new media. And I have to announce a new initiative in the initial question on distribution. And also, is this? Of course, we have many questions in the field of: are we handling an old model, or are we handling old content concepts? Well, the good thing is that we we ask all children in the theaters to vote, and our competition program, which is these are independent, arty, and special films. Also the best entertainment, it's everything. They give all these children, so they don't have a context, they are not allowed to ask their parents, their parents are not allowed to vote, and they give the films 8.5 till 9 on the scale of 10 average. So if you have the children in the hall, or if you really expose it to this quality content, they really, really enjoy it. It's mainly probably the context that don't bring them or give bad signals, I don't know. But in general, good content is really, really something children like. Have said this, it is also a difficult question how to get the audiences, and especially how to get new audiences, because our audiences are just vanished away to zero if we don't find new audiences every 4 years, because then the child is too old and will disappear. In Europe, this is a big problem, because many really very good films being produced in Europe, they do very well. The last research done on June last year is, and remember this because nobody knows this, because nobody wants to know this, Children's films sell 4 to 5 times more box office in Europe, in Europe-produced films, than in Europe-produced films aiming at an adult audience. 4 to 5 times more. They also travel to new territories more than films produced for adult audiences, about 25%. Not that much more, but really also considerable. Have said that again, it is difficult to find audiences for small films because of the language. All these questions you don't know in South to Southwest. Because the audience aiming at a specific film, you can understand aiming at an audience of 7 years old is seen as an insult by a child of 12. So the audiences are really small audiences. And the market cannot handle that. They cannot buy this film, translate it, dub it, market it for these small audiences. So many wonderful films are just dusting away on the shelves. The answer, we started an initiative with the support of the European Commission, audience development section as well, is that it's a bit about the Polish initiative. We wait till the films are not picked up by the market, because we think every film should be picked up by the market, because you should find your money to produce the next film, so we would never touch that. But there are leftovers, but not in the sense of leftover. There are excellent films being not exposed. And what we do now, we gather up countries and partners. We have 5, 7 partners now that are in this initiative, but it's really open to all European partners who would like to reach out to schools. So, because in the States you have this non-commercial, like educational window, but that doesn't work in Europe because it's not viable financial as well. I mean, then you would take it in the commercial window. So it's for those films, we started, so to say, in Europe, a new window, say an educational window, international for all languages. So we buy together, I go for ages already being an advocate to the sales agents and say, okay, don't expect to earn from this. This is not a financial model, it's audience development. It's very important for your next future, so you should collaborate on that. Of course, we will give you the handling costs. I mean, you don't have to pay for it, but you must be moderate in your expectations. And we buy together with all these countries, we buy, say, 10 films, and you're not obliged to take the film, but you can choose the films you like. You can propose us, okay, we take this title, every country is free, we don't want to oppose you on this, but it's a new way of collaboration. We struggle around because this is really a strange and new and daring idea. It is also financially for us as Syndicate, it's a bit wobbly because you need to have the extra income to get European money, otherwise they punish you at the end and even ask it back, and then you're bankructed. So it's a bit of dairy thing to do. But if anybody in this hall, or if you know people in your country who love to go to the schools with films, please contact Syndicate. I don't know if you fit in, but we really would like to know all these people, because you probably can also come with new ideas or better concepts. And my dream is that in a couple of years we have these children who vote like 8.5 to 9 in the like we really love it, to have these films available for them. And this is the way. You don't need marketing, big marketing budgets. The children are there. The diversity, especially in Netherlands, for instance, I'm from Amsterdam, 60% of our children in the schools are of non-Dutch background. So the variety is immediately there. So all these questions are included. And I really hope it will work. So please catch up.
Another question? Oh, maybe I have another question because oh, sorry.
My name is Nilendra Deshapriya. I'm from Sri Lanka. This question is for Yakub, if I may pronounce your name properly. I was so much impressed with the New Horizons and the initiative that you have done, because our films, which are very small and little films, they get unnoticed very easily, as you said. Though we get a theatrical release in Sri Lanka, or even get recognition on international film festivals, but it's hardly very difficult to get onto these VOD platforms. So I would like to ask from all of you here, is there a possibility that little unknown films, but little jewels of films are there producing in Sri Lanka? Is there a way that we could get onto your platforms for VOD and other available windows for recognition? Thank you.
First of all, we don't have our own platform. We're using, third parties initiatives, business models. Technically, no problem. Probably you could offer, if there is no MG, your films, productions to any platform. But still, it's not enough to, create a demand. That's the question. So unfortunately, for now, I believe that the best way is still the traditional way. That, there is a pearl, a diamond from Sri Lanka that shines at a festival in Berlin, Cannes, or Locarno, and then Wrocław, absolutely, New Horizons. Then, but I thought first the A festivals, then the festivals of festivals, the local initiatives, local events are picking it up, so it travels then through 50 festivals, and then at the end it finds its niche. That's the traditional way. But if you want to challenge me and you find the shortcuts, that would be great. Maybe you know the shortcuts.
I don't have a platform either, but for us, we just we have open submissions for films at our festival, like I'm sure everyone else, and if there are films from any country that we love, we will play them, and by playing them, we give them. I guess we do give them a platform, not a VOD platform, but we give them a platform to find an audience or find a distributor or find, a life beyond that festival. So yeah, I mean it's just all about the content for us, and we would love to see Sri Lankan films, and I don't know, but yeah, I don't. That's what I have to say.
For Drakenfilm, the VOD platform of Gothenburg, it isn't only films that have screened at the festival. Of course, I think that it helps a lot if the programmers of the festival see the film, because the programmers of the channel and they work very closely together. But that would be a typical example of saying that, well, yeah, there aren't very many places in the marketplace for these kinds of movies. Not all Sri Lankan movies, but the gems could very easily be on a platform like Drakenfilm. But I also think that outside in the marketplace, what we're actually all, when you say you don't have a platform, but it's a platform, it's a platform for meeting audiences. In so many, on the internet, with so many internet startups, quite often they don't quite know what their business model is, and then they realize, oh, our business model is that we have an audience. People are in our place, and that's also true for festivals. One of the most valuable assets, and I'm sorry if I sound like a business major, but one of the most valuable assets that festivals have are these engaged audiences, and sometimes we even know who they are because quite often they have memberships, and the engagement. And I was talking before about this idea of the festival screening as a platform, as a release platform in a way for later distribution from the festivals. But of course, this is also true for whoever distributes it. So I think that we need to look much more carefully about the business opportunities between distributors or filmmakers, depending where you are in the sales process, and the room and the festival audience. For instance, is it today, I would assume that it would be technically feasible for almost every festival to send an email to everybody who has seen a film. The next day you get an email with some information about the filmmaker, or Gather does this in the United States if you go to one of their screenings, that you can pre-order the DVD for the documentary you saw the previous night. They say 60% of the audiences who have just seen this film pre-order the DVD. DVD! I mean, already there. So this relationship is an asset that the festivals have that can be used in many ways, and I think we should start to think strategically about what those collaborations should look like.
Definitely. I'm sorry to inform you that we're an Arab film festival focusing on Arab films. So, but we can. I actually think we had a co-production with Sri Lanka for a short film in 2013. we can perhaps discuss a creative panorama, perhaps.
Thank you. Is there another question from the public? Just to go back maybe on your vision of what your events are, if they're a business or not a business, how do you see the future of festivals in your country? Or, yeah?
For me, I love film festivals, and I've always seen a film festival as a platform, not only for the film industry or for the cinephiles or cineasts or whatever. For me, I think the film festival, even more than the film itself, is a platform that absorbs what's really happening in the society in general, and I think that could be said especially in Sweden, because we've had a boom of film festivals in Sweden. It's increased, it's hugely increasing number of festivals, and we have the general festivals as Stockholm Film Festival, or even smaller ones as Flimmer in Norrköping. But we also have this wide range of thematic film festivals for like Cinema Queer in Stockholm, or for us, for instance, Malm Arab Film Festival, or even Nordics Panorama. You know, it's like, I think the film festival concept is really the thing to work with in the future, and you can work with this, and people are really starting to realize, even because, you know, people that visit Cannes or Berlin, or they knew since very long time ago that the festival is a platform for not only to see film but also industry, blah blah blah, distribution, blah blah. But I think even on a minor scale, people are starting to realize the impact and the importance to have film festivals and to make this happen. So I love it, and I hope that we will see much more in the future.
I'm not going to say industry blah blah blah, distribution blah blah blah. It's super important. So everything we've spoken about is today almost about the audience. But I'm just going to go reconnect a little bit to that idea of the festival as a meeting place for the industry. I would agree that it's possible that we've lost a little bit because the industry stuff takes so much space mentally, and it takes so much time on the calendar when you are industry and you go to a marketplace, and you quite often, many people who go to the marketplaces don't have time to see movies, and of course that's bad. I think that it creates a disconnect between what we're doing, and that's why I like your model so much, saying that it's all the same. But I do feel that at this specific time, I mean, let's say the next 3 years or the next 10 years, film festivals are also an opportunity for people to have those in-between conversations, you know, whether it's in a bar or in a bathroom queue or in an organized seminar like this, for people for different places in the industry get together and talk about their fears and about change and about what they're excited about and what they think the future is. And perhaps we should work a little bit more about creating those spaces, because I think a lot of solutions and a lot of political initiatives as well, happen in the margins between those 20-minute meetings that the producers have with each other. So that role is, in this transitional time that we're in, I think that role is incredibly important for film festivals. And it's a shame that people who work with festivals tend to be incredibly overworked and underpaid, because and that there's always, like, space and time are such an expensive resource in festival environments. Because I think that right now, if we could just free just a little bit of breathing room around the market activities, some of our challenges are going to solve themselves by people comparing experiences.
When I said blah blah blah, I don't mean to like take down importance, but I'm relating to some sort of consensus that we all know what it's about.
Yes, of course, yes.
There's a lot of film festivals in the United States, and I don't know if that will ever change. I mean, there are festivals that go out of business.
Right? There's more and more.
It seems, you know, some festivals, it seems like more are happening and fewer are closing.
Okay.
So, I mean, what does that mean for filmmakers if they play the festival circuit and all of their audience is just at festivals? Is that a good thing? I mean, I don't know if that's, you know, taking away from the possible theatrical release that they would have, or is that just using that as a launch pad for you know, promoting the film to others, or to sell it, ultimately on a physical media or on VOD. I think festivals are important. I mean, I hope so. That's what we're doing here. But it's just it's a celebration of film, and people want to have want to experience these films for the first time, and they want to see the creators and talk to them and feel like they're part of the experience. It's different than going to even if you go to the Drafthouse, that's great, and multiplexes that's good too. But it's a very special thing going to a festival and watching movies, and I mean, of course, I hope that continues, and but who knows, right?
Optimistic.
Okay, I'll give you a hint of what a festival in the future could be. Being a member of European Film Academy, I was invited several times to something called Sunday in the Country, which is a small event for filmmakers and professionals which are taken by the Academy to a remote place. Imagine a beautiful villa at the sea, 10 people, they eat together, cook together, sleep together, watch films together, talk films together. We were a little bit intimidated at the beginning, but then we just fell in love, head over heels with the idea. And then I came to Cannes, I thought like, the Lobster, yes. The hotel where people check in the rooms you have state-of-art screens, and people just spend there out of season, some time, changing rooms, freely mingling with the others, watching films, talking films. That I could imagine. It's a joke, but maybe not. Maybe this could be developed into something I can imagine, like a film hotel, cinephilia where you share lots of things,
That's a good idea.
That's for me something I would be interested in.
That's a beautiful vision. Wonderful. I'd like to return to this. You just said you don't know whether being on the festival circuit will threaten the theatrical release. Probably not. And one thing that I've heard in a lot of seminars here in the last week is that also distributors are most interested in whether you're coming. One of the things that you're being engaged on now as a filmmaker is whether you're coming with an existing community, whether a film has an audience attached to it. So the financial value of if you're using the festivals to build actively on that audience, that actually is quite important. However, because of the screen squeeze situation that we're in, and that there are fewer screening slots available for all kinds of reasons, for art house, for quality cinema of every kind, some quite good films are probably going to have their only theatrical release on the festival circuit. This isn't bad, but I worry about one aspect of it, which is that the filmmakers, as you say, to build that relationship, the easiest way to do it is for the filmmakers to travel with the movie. And if you have to go to 50 festivals with your film, that's probably 100 days or 200 days that you're not making your next movie. Do you see what I mean? That there's a cost in time for the filmmakers that is assumed to be zero, but these people aren't getting paid for those days. And that's a big challenge. So you can break through with a big film, and one of the difficulties of the next movie isn't actually making it, it's just having time to do that off the success of the previous one. So that's something that I'm a little bit worried about how we're going to solve.
All right. Oh, yes, one last question.
Hi, I'm Jen from Park Circus Films. We're a classic film distributor. I was just wondering, so we've got the sort of role of the festival, which is sort of connecting some of these niche interest titles with audiences. And then, Jakub, you've got these sort of engaged cineasts. And then it's how to sort of, whether or not there's any plans for using technology and some of the data around who those people are to then continue to the theatrical activity, and whether or not there's something bridging that gap between festivals and those engaged cineasts and the marketing of the theatrical release.
Well, I guess that's a little bit what I was kind of aiming for. That's one of the ways that you could leverage that audience contact at the festival. But I have to say that I don't know of any actual. Like, I haven't heard of any practical examples of that actually being done. But it seems that that's one of the areas where there actually is a resource that is underutilized for once in the film industry, which like never happens. So it seems like a logical next step to move towards.
I think we're good. Thank you. Oh, no.
just to say that. I'll talk to you afterwards, and I can give some just quick examples. And when you work for a festival and you show a film, oftentimes then when it does open, festivals do support that opening by on their newsletters, on their website, saying, you know, we missed this at the festival, you saw it at the festival, go see it here. And we utilize our emailing lists and all of that to help support those theatrical releases.
Right, we're good. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.